You can always send us an email, Aaron@jblfinancial.com, or...
That's the popular one.
Oh, I thank you. Or Jeff@jblfinancial.com.
Or you can go...
Yep, you can go directly to our website and click Contact Us and send us an email.
And we do promise to return those within 24 hours, and many of those questions are ones that are on the minds of many folks, and it's probably going to show up on the show, right?
Well, if one person has the question, generally we find that many do, so we like to bring it to light and hopefully answer some of those difficult questions that are on people's minds as they near retirement.
Exactly, and even though I may be in warming more quickly, Tucson, Arizona, our phone lines are open, and we're seeing people this week too, aren't we?
Yes, we are. The joys of technology. Skype is great.
Exactly. Skype is wonderful, so folks have been coming to visit with us. I've been Skyping in on those. Erin has been leading the meetings, as she usually does.
And the great thing is you'll get a sneak peek into the home of the retirement coach if you decide to come in for a Skype appointment. So take advantage.
Exactly. It's because I do it from the kitchen, right?
Yes, you get a beautiful view of the, luxurious vacation that you're on right now.
Well, it'd be a vacation if you actually let me not work.
Well, someone has to crack the whip.
Well, and you do a very good job on that. So, and I know our clients do appreciate that. But it's been it's been a very busy week this week for us, and also obviously it's been a very busy week in the markets. We're obviously pleased that the market's moving in a positive way. Tax reform is just another, I think, ingredient into this beautiful recipe that is being created now. We're talking about lower regulations, low interest rates, income tax reform. These are all great ingredients for hopefully a thriving economy, which usually also translates into a thriving stock market. So we've seen very nice gains so far this year. Hopefully you're participating in those. We know that our clients are loving it, and they're doing it. So let's keep the good times rolling, right?
Let's do it.
Good. So I know, and again, our phone lines are open, 969-KTRS, star KTRS from your cell phones, or 1-888-550-KTRS. Love to hear from you this morning. I guess we ought to jump right in, huh, Erin?
Let's do it. What's up first, Dad?
Well, who's going to benefit from tax reform and how? I think everybody's going to benefit, don't you?
Everyone is going to benefit. The nice thing about this tax reform is it's truly like a buffet. There are a lot of different things that have been implemented and changed, but it's not necessarily five-star dining for anyone. But are taxes ever really five-star dining?
No, they're not. But I do really like that analogy because naturally, we haven't had this for 30 years. And any change, generally, especially if it's not an increase, is really a good thing. I know that there were some restraints in terms of the cuts that they could have made in terms of hitting the federal deficit. So things might have been even deeper if we could have. And obviously, they're also not permanent, are they? No,
many of these are going to expire in the upcoming, I believe it's about 10 years. Is that correct, 2028?
Uh-huh. So we know that the Congress is working, so hopefully some of these things will become formalized as well. But the cool part is that I thought what we would like to do is really kind of look at this from two perspectives, right? One from the perspective of folks that are generally our clients. Those are folks that are trying to retire or already retired. And at the same time also take a younger generational look, right here?
Yep, we want to take a look at the rock stars and soon-to-be rock stars and their children.
Well, good. So let's start off by talking about it. I guess we're not going to hit every point because obviously
too many.
You fall asleep too.
It's too boring.
And the thing is that all this really has to be put to the test, and that's really I think going to be the fun part this year because, as you know, one of the important and crucial parts of being a financial planner is helping our clients do tax planning, not in arrears but generally in advance. So we're going to be testing everybody's withholding rates. Looking at these, but I've got some feelings that we've got some really good stuff on the menu for them, and let's start off, shall we?
Yes. So the number one thing that I think is excellent is that the standard deduction has been increased. So what that means is if you don't itemize your taxes, what they're doing is increasing that deduction for you, and this is many people entering retirement still have a mortgage, so most people with mortgages end up itemizing because of the interest on the loans. But once you've paid your mortgage off, most people aren't able to itemize any longer, and with a lower standard deduction, that means that was a lower deduction, so now they'll be able to capture some additional tax savings.
Right, because as we know, for an individual, we're looking at the first $12,000 as base of income from all sources is going to be tax-free. And really, that includes Social Security as well. Social Security is going to get affected if that's a part of your matrix as well. And then if you're married filing jointly, we're looking at $24,000 per year. So the first $24,000 is going to be tax-free. Right. The other thing they did was they also, even though they kept the 7 brackets that were there, they expanded them, didn't they?
That's right. So they lowered the rates on all of the brackets except for the top tier. They moved it up just 0.5%, I think.
Yeah, I think that's actually moved it down. I think the top one was 39.5, and they moved that to 37. Is that correct?
Okay. All right. Maybe you know what? I'll defer to you.
Okay. Yeah. So they did defer the bottom one, but what they also did was they expanded them as well. So that means and again, most folks are really concerned about marginal tax rates. We tend to look at things as a whole and really look at what we think of the effective rates. So
right.
Generally, right?
Right, because your marginal rate is what you pay on the last dollar you earn. So most people think of that number. But you have to think about all the dollars, how they were taxed to get you to the marginal rate. And generally we see that people approaching retirement and in retirement are sitting in the 10 to 20% tax bracket.
Yes, they are, and that's for federal income tax.
Right.
And as we know, especially for the folks in Illinois, they're fortunate at this particular moment in time in that retirement plan distributions they receive, whether they're from pensions or IRAs, 403Bs, etc., are not subject to the Illinois state income tax, which is very lucky them, right?
Absolutely.
That's very good. So we know that since the brackets have been expanded and the rates have come down, people are going to generally see some savings, especially if they're not itemizing deductions. And if they are, they're going to still see some savings as well. There have been some caps that they've put on. They're still retaining the deduction for income taxes, for state income taxes paid,
right.
which is a cool notion.
Right, that was a big one because that was up for debate if state income tax was going to be deductible or not. The other big win, I think, was that retirement plan contributions are not going to be affected, so that was up for debate as well, if there were going to be alterations in how much you can contribute and how it was taxed.
Yeah, so savings are obviously continuing to be encouraged. And, this discussion about retirement plan contributions was really kind of a backdoor or a backroom type of a thing, almost like what they did with the changes that they made to Social Security in the last 2 years. So it's cool that those are out in the open and they're not going to be changing those. We also know that charitable contributions are not going to be significantly affected. And more importantly, as the President promised, he's not touching your Medicare, is he?
No, he's not, and even with the changes to the Affordable Care Act, that's not going to impact Medicare in any way. Now, many people have found that the Medicare Part B premium has increased from 2017 to 2018, and unfortunately that is the case. The new base rate for Medicare Part B is going to be $134 a month. That had nothing to do with this legislation, but it's already been implemented. So many people are getting that information in the mail right now.
And, these rates continue to increase almost annually anyways.
Yes, that is true. And what I like to say is if you really think about what you're paying for, your Medicare Part A and B benefits, they make up 80% of your medical expenses. And if you're only paying $134 a month to cover 80% of your potential expenses, that's still a pretty excellent deal when you look at what the alternatives are, especially on the individual market.
Right, and, it's a great deal because we know that Medicare isn't a break-even. I mean,
it is absolutely not.
the country invests billions of dollars every single year in terms of subsidizing the plans for those folks that are Medicare eligible. So that's good. So they didn't touch Medicare. They expanded the brackets. They lowered the rates a little bit. They did make a few changes, and everybody's going to have to be taking a look. And that's for, as I like to think of, the rock stars and folks that are even getting close and hoping to be rock stars in retirement. We decided, right, you want to be a rock star, not a roadie.
Oh, my gosh. All right.
Well,
I mean,
okay.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to be the support staff to the rock stars? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Those are roadies, right? Those are people called roadies.
Lugging the stuff around. It's rough.
There you go. But we do know that, even our rock stars and all of us, especially those that are baby boomers, they generally, if they're married, have children. They're really concerned about how does this affect the kids, right, Aaron?
Of course.
And you're one of the kids, so how do you still see yourself and folks in your generation being affected?
Well, the number one most interesting thing that came out of tax reform is that the Obamacare tax or penalty, depending upon how you looked at it, has been repealed. So what that means is that if you decide not to elect health insurance, you are not going to face any tax implications when you file. And really this affects young people because as we found out from the implementation of the Affordable Care Act over the last several years, that the actuaries were not correct in that young people truly did not enroll in droves into insurance policies, which really impacts the risk pools. And so, older people bridging to Medicare, wanting to retire earlier, now knowing that they have access to health insurance, were able to take that coverage. And this is why, one, we've seen rates go up considerably, and two, why so many insurers have pulled out of the market because the risk pools were already unbalanced. But now what we probably will see is a significantly larger increase in that imbalance in those risk pools. So that's the number one thing, which it really also can save young people quite a bit of money because if you don't qualify for a subsidy, that's a pretty significant portion of your income. And we know that the millennials are more prone to have employment that doesn't necessarily offer coverage, a lot of freelance work, or even our generation happens to be one of the has been to be upstart in business in larger percentages than other generations. So those people are kind of working without group health insurance, and those were the prime targets for the individual health care.
And this certainly isn't to discourage anyone from being prudent in purchasing health care coverage.
Of course
not. But I think what it'll also do is we're going to probably be seeing the ability now for them to generate new plans.
Hopefully.
Ones that'll be, kind of going back to where we were, which were plans that maybe were a little more menu-driven, those also that would be providing catastrophic coverage, because the truth of the matter is that most of us can pay for bumps and bruises, whether it's going to the ER or whether it's going to, seeing a primary care physician or specialist.
Or an urgent care situation kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And those are popping up like crazy, right?
Yes, they are. And what I've found is when I reviewed the individual market is that if you're an individual who knows that you're going to have some expenses in 2018, the reality is the best policies are the highest deductible with the lowest premium, because if you add what an amortized premium is over a year plus your maximum out of pocket, it's significantly less than if you choose a more expensive policy with a lower deductible. So in almost every case, it makes sense to choose the high deductible plan because, one, if you're not going to use it very often or don't anticipate, why would you pay for something you're not using? So you're trying to essentially create catastrophic coverage for you, that top-end protection in the worst-case scenario. But also, if you know that you are going to use a lot of services, pay the least amount you can in premium, knowing that you're going to have to pay out of pocket anyway.
Yeah, and there were really, in my opinion, were two other things that I think were really significant that can help millennials. Number one is that generally, as we know, millennials are at the beginning of their earnings path versus being at the peak or towards the end of their reaching their peak earnings. Therefore, having that higher base of a standard deduction really is going to help reduce their income tax liability rather significantly. And I think that's a really good thing. The other one is that we know that the millennials, at least at this point, they're the ones that are going to be having children, right?
The babes.
The babes, exactly. And the child care credit has also been expanded. So those are some really good things that can, and as well as the earned income credit as well, have been expanded. So a lot of good things in this bill. Again, I think you really portrayed it very well, Aaron, which is it's a buffet. There's a lot of different things that are available for everybody. Hopefully you'll get something that tastes good out of it. At the same time, now that we've kind of broken the ice here in 30 years, it wouldn't surprise me that coming down the road, especially if Republican majorities are held in the Senate and the House, they'll have the ability to hopefully refine these plans and expand what's happening in the future. So that's not a bad thing. The question then becomes, what are some of the smart things you can do? How do we turn, if you want, some people may call this lemons, not to me. I think it's lemonade. Taxes are really a confiscation of earnings and investment income. The more you keep, the better it is for you. So what are some of the things we're going to be thinking about, or we hope other folks are going to be thinking about to do with this newly found money?
Well, number one, really newly found money is just like a raise, right? So if you're a person that thinks about, well, I want to take my raise and dedicate a portion of that to my retirement savings, this is another way that you can really increase that. That retirement savings year over year is dedicate what you would have paid in taxes to your 401k, or if you contribute to an IRA and you haven't maxed that out, this is the opportunity.
Well, and if you think about it, you're sticking it to the man, right? To Uncle Sam, because
That's
what
right.
happens is, you got a tax break, and then if you take that tax break and then you move that into a tax-deferred account, you're not even paying interest. You're not paying any taxes. You've actually reduced
tax savings.
Exactly. So that's not a bad thing to do. The other thing is that we know one of the primary characteristics, things that rock stars have been able to do, is to really effectively deal with and game plan to eliminate debt obligations. And this certainly could create a great opportunity for folks to say, okay, maybe we ought to dedicate this money to pay off our mortgage early, or deal with credit card debt, or deal with maybe some student loan debt that we may be carrying for our children. Reducing your obligations, reducing those outflows for the future, obviously has a super impact on the inflows, right?
Yes, it does. And if you're already a rock star, you've already maxed out your retirement contribution, you have no debt to liquidate, you can spend it.